I'm Jody, founder of the travel blog Family Travel Magazine and mom of 2 college students.
I'm Anna, owner of Waves and Wandering LLC, which is a full-service travel agency. I'm also mom to 3 daughters and grandmother to 3 grandchildren. Welcome to our show.
Before we get into our main topic today, Anna, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your upcoming trip. I know that you are headed to Epcot at Walt Disney World and Universal Studios. So can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing there?
I am a dyed-in-the-wool Disney person, so this is the first time I've been to Universal Studios in a really long time. I wanted to give people just a little tip. If there is an opportunity for you to go to Epcot or Universal or any of the theme parks, look ahead of time and find out what's going on, because it really changes the course of your vacation. Now, our primary goal for going to Universal is to enjoy some of the holiday stuff. That's not something that happens all year long. Obviously, it's a very Christmassy thing. But then they have a Mardi Gras celebration. If that's something that you would want to go see, you're not going to see that in December. You're going to see that in March. And the same thing with Epcot especially. Epcot has festival after festival after festival, and they all look a little bit the same, but a whole lot different. The festival that we'll be going to enjoy is the International Festival of the Holidays. There will be the candlelight processional. There will be Christmas trees and Christmas food kiosks and things like that, but that might not be your jams. Look for a festival that you will vibe with. Like in January, they start to do the Festival of the Arts. My kids loved that, even when they were little, because you can participate. It's a little bit more interactive, and there are just events at Epcot all year long that will change the trajectory of your trip. It will change the way you tour Epcot. So that's a huge tip just from our little chat. Whenever you're going someplace, look and see what's going on before you book that trip.
That's a great tip. And I have been to multiple parks, Busch Gardens, Disneyland, Epcot, Disneyland Paris, during their different iterations of the food and wine festivals. And those are just fantastic. Opportunity
I love the
to
food
try
and
a
wine
little
festivals.
a little bit of food from everywhere. That's when I love to visit. But if that's not your thing, the parks are pretty busy during those times. It's a good thing to know.
We did Disneyland last year during the Lunar New Year festival, and it was so cute. It was all decorated for Lunar New Year. They had a little parade that featured Mulan, who you don't really see a lot, especially if you go to Walt Disney World most of the time, but she was like front and center of the parade. And the food kiosks they had were very focused on Asian cuisine. Now, if you don't like Asian cuisine, that would have been something you didn't enjoy. But not only that, but talking about the lines for those were absolutely ridiculous. You had to go early in the day because people loved trying the different things that you don't get every other visit to Disneyland. So definitely when you're looking at these vacations, plan around some of these special events that they do.
And on that note, there's also, the parks also do those special ticketed events.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about those? Do you go for those?
I used to never miss them. And we lived in Florida, so it was very easy to go. But now when it's harder to get there and I have to pick and choose, I definitely think I prefer some more than others. I love everything Christmas, so I absolutely would go every time for Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. I'm not a big Halloween girl, so Universal Studios, Halloween Horror Nights, anything that could be scary, I'm out. I don't want to go for those kind of things. And I haven't done Jollywood. Have you done Jollywood yet?
No, I haven't.
My daughter went last year, and it was very hit or miss for her. There were some things that they didn't love about it, other things that they raved about. But the news from the most recent iteration of Jollywood is that it is vastly improved from last year, which is another key tip. Read the reviews and don't go by what happened last year or the year before. And especially if you haven't been to some of these things since before COVID, everything is different. Definitely look at the most recent reviews of things.
Last year, one of the things I did, which was new, was the Sweethearts Night at Disneyland. And that
How
was
was
held
that?
February. And that was just, it was the cutest thing. They had the cutest little outfits. They had these like heart and love overlays on It's a Small World and the castle and Main Street. It was
I love
really,
that.
it was absolutely adorable. They had really inventive snacks that you could get, although the lines for those was pretty insane.
Yeah.
But it was super cute. And a lot of times with these particular nights, you can ride some attractions without crazy lines. So that is a good benefit. For our main segment today, we wanted to talk about a new destination that we had the opportunity to visit last month. Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point is a new Disney island destination in the Bahamas. It is similar to Castaway Cay, but also very different because it isn't a private island per se. It is located on an existing island, but it just opened this past summer, and we had the chance to experience it for a day. We just wanted to talk about it, give a little overview of our experience, and some important tips that you'll want to follow if your cruise includes a day there.
I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to let you take this away, especially with your recent TikTok fame over this thing, because that walk from the ship to the tram, not even to the beach, from the ship to the tram is, I mean, it's a destination in and of itself.
When this island, when the maps first came out of this destination, I think the thing everybody noticed was that it isn't a tender port. You don't have to get on a ship to get off of your ship and go to the shore, but there is a very long pier, which I have been told in a TikTok comment is related to the coral reefs, which is an excellent reason to have that. But it is a long walk, and it is something just to be aware of. So our ship, and based on what I've seen online, this seems to have been a little bit of an anomaly, but we weren't actually given the all clear to get off the ship until about 10:15 a.m. We had arrived earlier, and like Castaway Cay, everybody on the ship, or almost everybody on the ship, gets off, the staff, gets off to set up for the day. The food is coming from the ship, the merchandise is coming from the ship, the cast members are coming from the ship, and so there was a bit of a delay from when we docked to when we were able to get the all clear.
Yeah, it was about 2 hours.
Yeah. We were told in advance through a push notification through the app that if you had any sort of mobility concerns, you could go to the Walt Disney World Theater to queue up for what I think was golf cart type transportation across the tram. However, most people walked. And what you did was basically exit the ship. There were some cute wagons set up, which was great for families who were bringing a lot of stuff to the beach. And then you started walking. As soon as we started walking, I turned on the outdoor walk function on my Apple Watch, and it came out to about 0.55 of a mile, and it took us about 15 minutes. It's a long walk, and it's not shaded. There's no seating if you wanted to take a break. It's just a get out and walk. So
it is. It's a long walk, and it's a little bit of we were there in the fall. So I hesitate to think of how difficult a walk it will be in the middle of the summer when it's, the highest temperatures. There's very little breeze blowing. And I'm also kind of glad I didn't have little kids with me. I'm not a walker. I'm not an exerciser. I'm averse to exercise. It already is daunting to me just to look at it. But just based on experiences with my grandchildren, they don't want to walk, especially back to the ship at the end of a beach day. They don't want to do that walk. I don't know. And 15 minutes, I think that was probably my fault because all of you guys could have probably been there in half that time. But I don't think 15 minutes is a stretch if you're bringing a family or if you're bringing a lot of stuff with you.
Yeah, and it's a walk in beach shoes. It's with your beach bag. It's wearing your bathing suit. And there were quite a few people in front of us. I don't think you necessarily held us back. I think, I could walk that distance quicker, but not in that situation.
And then once you finish that walk, you're not there yet. You still have to get on the tram to take you to the actual beach.
Right. And so we were told that there is not a walking path currently. I believe that the plan would be that there would be another walking path if you chose to do that. I would not choose to do that after the first walk. But I will say that the walk in itself would not dissuade me from going to this destination.
Yeah, I would say that as well. And as much as I complained and as much as I didn't like it, the island itself is beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful destination. It's just the fact of getting there. The other thing that was unique to this island that you don't have at Castaway Cay is it was a very theme parky type entrance.
Right. And I think we noticed too that a lot of the plants and trees were fairly immature. They had been recently planted. I think that the look of this island destination will change over time.
Yeah,
because there were a lot of trees that were very, very young. I think we'll see this place evolve as the years go by.
Yeah, the sand though is gorgeous. The water was gorgeous. It's the perfect beach destination once you get there.
The sand it's very hard to describe in a podcast, but it kind of had like a pink cast to it. It was very soft and it was just great. It was the beach itself is beautiful. The water is gorgeous. It's a great destination.
I had heard before we got there that the sand was soft, and I don't know that I could comprehend what that meant until I walked on it. And it for sure it's just nice. It feels nice on your feet. It was just nice.
In terms of sailings that go there, we kind of had a bit of a unique sailing that we had gone on because our ship, which was the Disney Dream, it was a 3-night cruise, and it went to Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point, and then it went to Castaway Cay. It was really nice. We didn't have to choose one or the other. But if I'm correct in saying this, Anne, there's a lot of sailings where you only go to this particular destination and not to Castaway, right?
Yeah. Before this island opened up, a double dip was 2 trips to Castaway Cay. And even those were few and far between. I think you're going to find now when you're looking for cruises that it is not a normal thing to get to do both of them at the same cruise. You will have to choose whether you want to go to Castaway or go to, I'm just going to say Lookout Cay because we'll be a 3-hour podcast if we don't short it. But yeah, we were super, super lucky to have that. And I would think on the longer, like maybe a 5-night cruise, they'll throw in sort of a double dip so that you get to do both islands. But definitely on a 3-night, they're still doing primarily Nassau and then one of these 2 islands.
Right. And this destination, it is in the Bahamas. It isn't really super far off the coast of Florida. It is very doable in a 3-night sailing.
Yeah. And the nice thing about it is at the moment, they're only going to have one ship at a time there. You're not going to have to worry about fighting for beach chairs or space, with an umbrella. There were plenty of beach chairs.
Right. So this destination, and if you need to see a map, there's some online. Guest services had a few large ones at the counter that you could look at. There is, just like at Castaway, there's an adult-only beach. Unlike Castaway, the adult-only beach is basically adjacent to the family beach with only like a little sign separating it. It's not very far once you get off that tram, but there are a lot of seating areas and there's a lot of like shoreline that you can enjoy the beach if that's what you want to do.
You were very lucky to find an area that was really well shaded for there not being a ton of mature trees. We were there on a super windy day. They weren't allowing you to put the umbrellas up, but if you just do a little bit of extra walking and a little seeking, the area that you found was perfect.
Yeah, I did notice that some people had kind of set up themselves in the canopy of the food areas, which isn't necessarily where you want to be if you want a beach vacation because there's no lounge chairs. I was able to find an area that was pretty shaded. And typically I would hope that the umbrellas could be up. I know we were there on a very, very windy day where they weren't allowed. I'm hopeful that was an anomaly.
I've seen other people give reports about the wind, but mostly the wind as it applies to that walk across the pier. But I can't imagine that it's windy there all the time. You could never use the umbrellas.
The other thing that we wanted to talk about specifically to this destination is the food. Like Castaway Cay, you don't need to go back to the ship to eat. They bring the food to the island. There were several places you could eat, including an adult-only option. This food was barbecue, so it was very similar to what you'd get at Castaway. I think that matters less if you're not doing a double dip. Because we had Castaway the next day, it was a little repetitive.
Yeah.
But I found the food to be very good.
I thought the food was delicious. I thought the ribs that I had were absolutely delicious. And right now, and again, brand new island, they're still working out the kinks. The big difference that I noticed here is when you're on Castaway, the line for the buffet kind of goes in two directions. You can enter from the left or from the right, and you move towards the center. It's the same food on both sides. But where we went to eat on Lookout Cay, it was one direction. You got in one line and you went to the right, and all of the food was stretched across that area. But that made the line super long.
Right. The line was long, and again, going back to what we discussed before, there wasn't a whole lot of shade. So I think this is one of those cases where eating earlier is beneficial. Now, like I said, we got off the ship at 10:15, the earliest. We had our 15-minute walk. We had our tram ride. We set ourselves up. That doesn't necessarily lend itself to immediately eating. Yeah. But I think this is the type of place, just based on what I've seen from the food, that you're going to want to go a little off peak.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And even the number of tables that were available was a little bit limited. I think, again, as things change on the island, as the flora and fauna sort of matures and develops, I think you'll find that they're moving some stuff around or they're adding some stuff. And there are different locations to eat. We can't really speak to the experience at the other food areas, the other barbecue areas, but I think some of that'll change as they get used to going there. And also maybe, having the crew get off the ship pretty much right as we got there and having to set everything up. And I feel like on Castaway that moves a little bit better. Maybe the delay there in the morning inhibited their ability to be just up and running right away.
Right. And like Castaway, they do have bar service at the beach. If you want a drink, you can either go to one of the bars. You can get service at your beach chair. They do. It's kind of interesting because they serve the drinks in these colorful metal cups. It is a little bit different from Castaway. There's definitely a big focus on the environment. And I'm just going to say, if you are someone who drinks alcohol and you like Dole Whip, you absolutely have to try the Eleuthera Euphoria, which was the signature drink. It's Dole Whip with rum and some other stuff, and it was delicious. Definitely just even worth just going to the island for that drink.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It looked like it was super popular, and because it's very hot, you're really just doing it to cool yourself down. That's the rationale.
Absolutely. Another thing I'll just kind of comment on this, because it was a little different from Castaway, is I did notice that, and we were at the adult beach, but like I mentioned, it wasn't separate from the family beach. I actually was able to get Wi-Fi, which I'm not able to do at Castaway. So I just throwing that out there is you may actually be able to use your Wi-Fi at the island.
That's kind of cool. I didn't even try that.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Let's talk for a minute about our best tips for your day at Lookout Cay. What are things that we wish we knew when we went or that we learned while we were there?
The first thing I'll mention is just cabanas are always very popular. They're very difficult to get, and I think we've seen that they've become almost impossible to get unless you are a concierge guest. We've had Pearl guests with us on our sailings and not been able to get a cabana. So if you're able to get one and you want one, it's a great opportunity to get some shade, get some extra service. But you should be aware at Lighthouse or Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point that the family cabanas are very separate from all of this other area we're describing. they are directly when you get off of that long pier that you walk to the right. And so you don't take the tram. You're not going to be near all of the shops. I do believe that they do have food there at those cabanas.
Yeah.
But they are definitely segregated from the rest of the activities on the island.
Yeah, I think they were beautiful, but it seemed to me like it would be a little bit isolating. There are a lot of activities that take place over on the main part of the island that you need the tram to get to, like the Junkanoo thing, the crafting for the kids. All of that was over a tram ride away. I don't know how accessible other things are if you're at those cabanas. I mean, you virtually have a beach to yourself. It's you and just a handful of other people.
Right. And you don't have to take the tram. You're going to be there quicker. It's a trade-off, definitely. But that's just something to be aware of.
Yeah. And there was something that you did, and I know some of the other people that we were traveling with did, that never even entered my mind. And that was to bring a change of shoes.
Right. So those of us who wore sneakers on the plane instead of flip-flops wore those for the walk. And they were definitely more comfortable and just made for a more pleasant experience walking. Half a mile in flip-flops isn't necessarily great for my feet. And I imagine with little kids too, you would probably be happy to have a pair of sneakers for them to wear if they are walking.
Yeah, I think that was a really good idea. And I think most people don't. I mean, you might even have them in your bag, but you're getting off the ship. And I think in your mind, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to the beach. I don't need sneakers. But it ended up being a really good thing. And I imagine when it's super hot, I mean, a flip-flop is fine for the sand, but walking across that pier, it's going to be hot on tiny feet.
Right. And that brings us to another point, which is, again, there's limited shade. Even if the umbrellas can be up, there is no shade on that walk. There wasn't shade in some of the line for food. So bring your, pack when you're packing, bring those cover-ups, those long cover-ups, bring hats. For a windy beach, I actually prefer like a baseball cap to a sun hat, just because those could just sail off in the sun. But, pack those things when you're packing for your cruise and bring them with you to the island, because it was definitely beneficial to have shade.
Yeah. And I don't always have a tote bag with me. I usually feel like you pretty much get off the ship and they hand you a towel and you don't really need a tote bag. But I really think this is an occasion where you need to have some kind of a tote bag to bring stuff over to the beach with you.
Right. And this isn't a destination where you'll want to go back to the ship, grab some stuff, and then go back. Once you're there and you're sitting on the beach, you want to be there for as long as you plan on spending on that beach.
Yeah, once you've done that death march, you're not going back to the ship until you're done for the day.
And then our other tip, which we mentioned earlier, is just, getting food earlier, I think is going to be beneficial in terms of lines. So I would, and that kind of, for me, when I eat an earlier lunch, that kind of trickles to my whole day. I want to make sure I'm eating an earlier breakfast. I want to have dinner a little earlier. So just, that's something to kind of plan in your day.
I also want to reprimand people to not be those people that send somebody off to save a table while you wait in line for the food, because I know of at least one table where someone from the back of the line came up and staked out that table and sat there and saved it for her family. We had gone through the buffet. We had all eaten. We were finished, and she was still sitting there by herself. So keep those tables moving. If you are staking out these tables and preventing other people from sitting and eating, it sort of holds up the whole process.
Right. And we didn't do that. And so we were walking around with our trays, and for like maybe a minute, I mean, it really wasn't very long when we found a table. So get in, eat, finish your food, go back to the beach.
Yeah. Okay, so we had a couple of questions from our last episode about Cabo San Lucas. And Jody, I guess the one question that comes up is, how difficult was it if you pick this resort with the stunning view of, over the cliffs and everything? how difficult is it to get back in town? Is that something that you can go down for lunch, go back up, enjoy your resort, and then come back for dinner, or go to the beach and then come back and get changed and go for dinner? How much time and how difficult was it to get from one spot to the other?
Sure. This particular resort has a sister resort in the marinas. And so because of that, they're able to offer a shuttle. And I think the shuttle ran every 2 hours. So it isn't necessarily a run down for an hour and eat, but it could be a lunch or a morning thing. It could be a quick excursion or a shopping day. In terms of the actual resort, because it's on a cliff, it's walkable, but in the heat, so they had these golf carts that just ran around, and you just call for one or you just flag one down. So in terms of getting around the resort, it was very easy. But yeah, if you wanted to go into the marina area, the downtown area, this particular resort had a shuttle. I'd say it was fairly easy. I don't remember how long the ride was, but it wasn't anything that was too long, but it was something you could probably do for maybe a dinner or for a half day or a little bit longer.
And in terms of the trip itself, I know there are some cruise ships that they make a port stop at Cabo. Was there enough to do to warrant a longer trip for a few days, or does the few hours that you're there with a cruise ship kind of give you the same sense?
We did see cruises docked there, and it is a tender port, so you'll be getting on a small boat to get to the shore. But I think, I think with a lot of these port destinations, you get a good flavor for it. But if you really want to spend some time relaxing by the pool with the locals at the resort who are really super friendly, you probably want to stay there for a little while. So I would say, if there's a cruise you're booking that has a stop there, it's a great opportunity to kind of take a look and see if it's somewhere you want to spend more time. But I definitely think you could spend much longer than a port stop there.
And I had a couple of questions referring back to Lookout Cay. Do you think it's worth booking an excursion? Are you there long enough? What does your day there look like?
I would say I would probably book an excursion there after I had been there 1 or 2 times. I think the beach, we talked about the sand and how beautiful the water was. It really, if you're a beach person or you want to spend time at the beach, I think that being a new destination, that is enough.
Yeah.
But there were some pretty cool looking excursions. And I think if you had an adventurous family or you've been there more than once, it could be fun to book an excursion.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I think for our first visit, there was a lot to take in, and there were a lot of different areas. I love the little shopping district kind of a thing. There just was a lot to take in. So I think on your first visit there, especially because I don't think we had a really long day, it's probably better to just go and get a lay of the land and figure out what are the parts that you really want to enjoy. But after that, I think moving forward, it would definitely be worth looking at some of the excursions.
And there were some fun things like nature walks and history walks where you could really learn about the destination, which I think would be fun.
Now let's dive into the latest travel news and updates, from exciting cruise announcements to must-know travel tips. Here's what's making waves this week.
In our current events section today, if you follow Walt Disney World at all or Disney at all, you know that there's been sort of a progression over the last couple of years where we've gone from Fast Pass to Genie Plus with Lightning Lane, virtual queues, and now we have the latest incarnation of the old Fast Pass system, and we have what's called Lightning Lane and Lightning Lane Multi-Pass. Now, the difference between the two, Lightning Lane Single Pass is where there's an attraction that you want to do. It's super, super popular. It's going to be really hard for you to get on that ride, but you can purchase sort of a one-use admission, and you can go to that attraction with a lower wait time, ride the ride, enjoy it, and get off. Now what we have is the Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, which works exactly the way the old Fast Pass works, except that you have to purchase it. You purchase it, you pick your 3 attractions. Once you've done one of them, you can add more and you can continue adding them throughout the day. The latest part of this came in the form of the Lightning Lane Premier Pass. Now, up until today, it was only available to guests at deluxe resorts. But as of today, it's now available for anybody at Walt Disney World Resort. And basically what this is, it's kind of a free-for-all sort of a thing. You can ride whatever you want to ride. You don't have to make the reservations like you do with Lightning Lane. It's just, it kind of gives you access to everything with the advantage of a Lightning Lane, but it comes with a price tag. And that price tag is $499 per person.
Per day.
Per day. Now, how do we feel about this?
This is, and any of these paid upgrades is a bit of a difficult conversation because I think saving time is money. I think tickets are already expensive and then you start adding this stuff on. I think that is, and to also just add on to what you said, this is a one park per day thing, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just say, okay, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to buy a park hopper and I'm going to just go at it for the day.
Yeah.
You can only do one. And I think that value varies based on the park you're talking about, first off.
Yeah.
I think this is really a niche product
for sure.
people
And I'm
wanna
kind of
save.
surprised I was surprised at the announcement that they opened it up for all of the Walt Disney World resorts, because what I'm seeing in my travel agency business is that people that were previously booking VIP tour guides to kind of help them navigate the parks faster and to beat some of the lines and the waits, those people are now switching to this because for them, this is a bargain. It's cheaper than hiring the VIP guide. It lets you have a little bit of autonomy. You're doing your own thing. You're not relying on somebody else to sort of plan stuff for you. Those clients they're going to be high-end clients anyway, they're all over this. But I'm thinking for somebody that travels like I travel, which a lot of times, I'm looking at the all-star resorts or I'm looking at Pop Century. I'm not ready to spend $500 a day per person to get this benefit. I was a little surprised to see that they've now made it available to anybody, and also not surprised.
Yeah, I think it's a great option to have. It is a good alternative to a VIP tour guide. If you only have a day or two, you want to experience everything, you don't get to the parks very frequently. It's an awesome product to have available. But I think, as I mentioned, this is really a niche product.
Yeah. And I think that's what it comes down to. If this for you may be a one and done or a once in a lifetime thing, and you want to make the most of the time that you have there, it's definitely something that is going to expedite your waits for things. It's going to make it much easier to just go from one place to another without having, even with the Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, you're still looking at your computer or your phone or whatever, and you're trying to book these time slots, and you go in the morning and you use your first one, and now you find out that another one's not available till 5 p.m. So I think if you want a vacation where you can just do whatever you want, whatever time you want, this is a great tool to purchase.
Absolutely. It's a great option. It's just not for everyone.
But good on Disney for offering something that people are going to buy it. I mean, it doesn't matter what Disney comes up with, somebody's going to buy it. Good for them for coming up with the idea. And I'm not ruling it out for every vacation. I think with our family, we've done Disney enough that it's not necessary to get on every attraction every time we go. But again, if this is, your once in a lifetime or even once in a while trip, it might totally be worth it.
Right. And if you just don't have a whole lot of time, if you're, taking a very short trip, but there's things you absolutely want to do and you want to be able to do. But yeah, it's definitely an investment.
Thank you as always for joining us on our show. And we look forward to seeing you next week. We're going to be talking about Alaska, traveling by cruise ship or just visiting the state of Alaska. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thanks for tuning in to Wander and Chat. If you're enjoying the show, Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts. Subscribing means that you will never miss an episode, whether it's our weekly chats or some surprise bonus content when the travel bug takes us off schedule. Stay in the loop and be the first to hear all about the travel tips, news, and stories that we have to share. And while you're at it, we'd love it if you left us a quick rating or review. It really helps us find more listeners like you and to fine-tune our content so you like it better. Thanks for your support and happy travels.